So disregard this chapter. I forgot to take that out. I'll try to correct that. But there's a lot of chapters to put in, so I'll probably just delete that chapter. The ones that are listed on the instruction sheet. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. I do want that. Thank you. Okay.
We didn't raise our hands.
So there's the PowerPoint on growth development.
Are you sure? Does anybody else?
Okay. All right. So you've got your computer. You can go to units. We'll click on concepts related to the individual. PowerPoint down here. Concepts related to the individual. And this is health, wellness, and illness, and it's in Kosher, chapter 17, and then the certain pages that I pointed out in chapter 16 and 19. What is health? Defined in relation to the person's own values, personality, and lifestyle. So you want to think about in nursing, how do you define health? Traditionally, health is defined as the presence or absence of disease. Health is very multidimensional. In terms of the individual, the person may not consider themselves ill if their disease is in control. Then looking at the ANA, American Nursing Association, in 1980 defined health as striving towards optimal functioning. In other words, health is an ongoing process, a way of life. Next, the World Health Organization, or WHO, defined health as, they take a more holistic view on health, and it's a state, they define it as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And that's on page 299. I don't know if you want to. This is a good website at the bottom listed that kind of tells you a little bit more about the World Health Organization, so you might want to check that out. And disregard the box numbers also, because they're not correct either. They're from an old book. But as a nurse, you should develop a personal definition of health. Answering the following questions can help nurses develop their personal definition of health. So these are good things to think, because how you perceive health will affect how you treat people and interact with them dealing with their health. So these are some things to think about. Is a person more than a biophysiologic system? Is health more than the absence of disease of symptoms? Is health the ability of an individual to perform work? Is health the ability of an individual to adapt to the environment? Is health a condition of a person's actualization? Is health a state or a process? Is health the effective functioning of self-care activities? Is health static or changing? Are health and wellness the same? Are disease and illness different? Are there levels of health? Are wellness, health, and illness separate entities or points along a continuum? Is health socially determined? And how do you rate your health and why? There are wellness and well-being. Wellness is a state of well-being. There are 7 components of wellness that we want to look at to assess someone's wellness. And we'll talk about each of these concepts in greater depth. We're going to look at a case study. But physical wellness is considered the ability to carry out daily tasks, achieve fitness, maintain nutrition, avoid drug use, alcohol, or tobacco, and practice positive lifestyle habits. Social component of wellness is the ability to interact successfully with people and within the environment of which each person is a part, to develop intimacy and develop respect and tolerance for those with other beliefs. Looking at the emotional component, it's the ability to manage stress and to express emotions appropriately and accept limitations. Number 4, or the 4th one, is intellectual, is the ability to learn and to use information effectively for personal, family, and career development, or strive for continued growth and learning to deal with new challenges. The 6th one is occupational, and that is the ability to achieve balance between work and leisure time. And the 7th is environmental, and that is the ability to promote health measures that improve the standard of living and quality of life in the community that affect the food, water, and air. Wellness involves working on all aspects of the model. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do tables, and I will give you this case study to read over, and I would like for you to look at these different components of wellness and evaluate how Miss M is related to these components and the ones she has problems with. So if you look at this. So it's a 2-part. If you look at part 1 and part 2, we'll go over part 1 first and part 2. So maybe you can have one person read it to the group. Probably be the easiest if it doesn't get too noisy. And then you can discuss as a group what your findings are looking at this. Some models of health and wellness. It's very important for nurses to understand what health is in order to effectively treat their clients. Nurses treat the individual as a whole, as we've discussed, and not just the physiological reasons for their illness or disease. It also needs to be recognized that people's beliefs affect their own practices, as we've discussed about Ms. M. Each plan of care needs to be individualized. So we need, like you said, we cannot say you need to do this, this, and this. We need to collaborate with the client or patient to see what they want to do, what they want to do, and what they want to achieve. A model is a way of understanding a concept. The clinical model is the narrowest of all the models, and this model is the model that medical practitioners typically use, because their focus is on treatment of signs and symptoms of disease and elimination of malfunction or pain. That's their main goal. In looking at the health-illness continua, this can be used to measure a person's perceived level of wellness. Maybe Miss M doesn't really feel like she's sick. A lot of diabetics don't, the neuropathy, I don't know if she relates that to her diabetes. Typically that's why they have neuropathy, but maybe she feels like, I don't feel bad, my blood sugar is way up, but I feel fine. And a lot of times that's why it's hard to convince patients that they actually have an illness. Travis's illness wellness continuum shows a range of high-level wellness to premature death. So let's look at that. So describing Travis's model, it illustrates two arrows pointing in opposite directions and join in the middle at a neutral point. The movement to the right indicates increased levels of health and well-being, and the movement to the left indicates decreased levels of health and well-being. So you can see that on the right, giving patients awareness, education, and growth will hopefully move them to a high level of wellness, where the treatment model takes the disability signs and symptoms and puts them back at a neutral point, but really doesn't build on that to get them to the high level of wellness. So the traditional or the clinical model can only move an individual to the neutral, where signs and symptoms are alleviated. However, the wellness behaviors that are initiated can move a person to the higher level of health. Illness and disease. Illness can be either acute or chronic. Acute illness is usually short in duration and severe. Symptoms appear abruptly, are intense, and often subside after a short period of time. Chronic illness, on the other hand, usually persists for 6 months or longer, affects functioning in any dimension. There may be relapses or periods of maximal functioning. Remission is considered when symptoms disappear, and exacerbation is when symptoms reappear. What are some examples of chronic illnesses?
Cancer.
Diabetes. Arthritis.
Okay. Maybe raise hands so we can. Okay.
Diabetes.
Diabetes, definitely chronic, right? Definitely. MS is a chronic, definitely. Yep. Someone said cancer. Do we consider cancer chronic?
Those don't work, because they're starting to do this thing with survivorship, that even if you don't have cancer, there are consequences from the treatments.
Right.
And you have to watch for that kind of so yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything?
Heart disease.
I'm sorry.
Heart disease.
Heart disease. Yeah. Lung disease. Arthritis. COPD, you'll see that a lot in the hospital, where they'll maintain at home quite well. Everybody know what COPD is? Chronic obstructive. Very good. But you'll see them come in with the diagnosis of COPD exacerbation, because they're to the point they need to come in and get antibiotics and breathing treatments, that they're not being able to maintain stability at home. So that's a lot of times what we'll see. And of course, cancer can be alleviated. That is true. So they a lot of times will describe it as in remission, but they'll still monitor for that to return. Okay. Illness behavior is, simply put, it's how people behave when they are ill. How people monitor their bodies, define and interpret their symptoms, take remedial action, and use the healthcare system when ill. The impact of illness on the client and family. The behavioral and emotional changes. With a mild illness that's short-lived, it's usually not too too much of an impact on their behavior or their emotional state, but severe illnesses can lead to extensive emotional and behavior changes, causing anxiety, shock, denial, anger, withdrawal, impact on the body image. And body image is a very subjective concept of physical appearance, and body image can change with illness. The adjustment to change is body image comes in phases. There may be shock, withdrawal, acknowledgement, acceptance, and rehabilitation. Impact on self-concept. Self-concept is a person's mental image of strengths and weaknesses in all aspects of personality. Self-concept can change because of illness. The person may no longer be able to meet family expectations, and this can lead to tension and conflict. Family members may need to change their interactions with the client. And then the impact on family roles. Of course, if someone's very ill, it's going to impact their ability to be the mama a lot of times, or the dad in the family. So roles may change due to illnesses. Role reversal, you'll see younger children take on the elderly, motherly, like if your mother is older and you start taking care of them, then you kind of become the mother to your mother. So you'll see a lot of times where role reversal may occur. Impact on family dynamics. Family activities and decision-making may cease. They might not involve you in some of the decisions made in the family. And then also, family members can be reluctant to assume the ill person's roles and responsibilities, which can be difficult if the person can't meet their role expectations. That can be real difficult if they continue to try to do all the things they used to do. So family dynamics may need to change as a result of an illness. Okay. Variables influencing health beliefs and practices. There are internal variables, and these are biologic. The biologic dimension are the genetics, the sex, the age, and the developmental level. And of course, these are things that we can't really change. Then there's the psychologic dimension, mind and body interactions, and emotional response to stress affect body function. Self-concept or self-esteem, how a person feels about themselves. And cognitive dimension is lifestyle choices, risk factors, spiritual and religious beliefs. Those are the internal variables. The external variables are environment, so secondhand smoke, sun x-rays, acid rain, or sulfur dioxide from ore smelters and related industries get in the air and come down to the ground when it rains. Greenhouse effect, does everybody know what the greenhouse effect is? It's where the glass roof of the greenhouse permits the sun's radiation to penetrate, but the resulting heat does not escape back through the glass. So carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere acts like this glass roof of the greenhouse, and as carbon dioxide levels increase due to industrial and automobile emissions, the surface temperature of the Earth may also increase because it can't escape through there, and which causes global warming. Standards of living, health, morbidity, mortality, occupational exposures are external variables that can affect wellness. Family and cultural beliefs, interactions within family and community. Social support networks, family, friends, confidence. can encourage you to get well or can support you during illness. So those are all external variables. Health promotion, wellness, and illness prevention. Health promotion, wellness, illness prevention all focus on the future. The difference between them involve motivation and goals. Passive strategies are health promotion activities that help the client maintain, enhance, present level of health, such as through routine exercise and good nutrition. The client is motivated to act positively to reach a more stable level of health. Sorry, that's just health promotion activity. Okay, passive strategies are those gained from the actions of others, such as fluoridation of drinking water. And of course, active strategies are those the client participates in of their own will, such as exercise and smoking cessation. Illness prevention activities protect the client from actual or potential threats to health. And an example of that is immunizations. The client is motivated to take part in these activities to avoid declines in health and functioning. Wellness is defined as an ongoing, dynamic process of striving to achieve optimal health. And wellness education teaches the client how to care for himself in a healthy way. Topics can be like self-awareness, stress management, self-responsibility, health education. Helps the client achieve a new understanding and control of his or her life. Health belief models. Rosenstock's and Becker's health belief models are intended to predict which individuals would or wouldn't use preventive measures, such as screening for early detection of cancer. Individual perceptions are perceived susceptibility. Do you feel that you are at a higher risk from family history? Perceived seriousness. How serious do you feel the risk is in the general public? And a perceived threat. How serious do you feel the risk is to you? Those are individual perceptions. Modifying factors are demographic variables, age, sex, race, and ethnicity. Adolescents may feel peer pressure, peer approval more important than their families. Socio-physiological variables, social pressure or influence from peers or other reference groups may encourage preventive health behaviors. That would be a good thing, like no drinking and driving. Structural variables, knowledge about the target disease and prior contact with it influence preventive behavior. And cues to action, internal or external. Did someone remind you, or do you just care enough to remember? Like mass media, the campaigns, breast awareness month, those kinds of things. Or did you get a postcard from your primary care physician that reminded you that you needed to come in for your annual exam? Or did you read an article? That kind of thing. The likelihood of action are the perceived benefits of action. Will it prevent something from occurring? Minus the perceived barriers to action. The cost, the inconvenience, the unpleasantness, and the lifestyle changes that will have to be made. So the patient needs to weigh those to determine whether they really want to make the changes. Alternative therapies or complementary medicine. Some of the examples, the National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine is NCCAM, and that's a great website that you can go to look into those. And of course, that's one of your extra activities, web enhanced activity. So allopathic medicine or therapy is considered the Western medicine. It comes from a Greek root. It refers to conventional medicine where they kill bacteria and suppress symptoms like with antibiotics. So that's our typical medicine. Ayurvedic medicine has roots in India, and they view illness is that the body is in a state of imbalance because it feels out of balance with nature. And treatment, they feel, includes diet, herbal remedies, breath work, physical exercise, yoga meditation, and a detox program. Chiropractors, they believe that the spine is the backbone of human health, and that if the body is functioning correctly, it will cure its own ills with realignment. 4 is herbalism, and that's where they use plants and plant-based substances to treat illness. They can have multiple benefits and can be gentler and less toxic for the body. Homeopathy or self-healing, they believe in using small doses of natural substances such as plants, minerals, and animal matter to stimulate a person's immune and defense system. And then naturopathic medicine has roots in Hippocrates. They believe in the innate wisdom of nature and in the body's ability to heal itself using nutrition, herbal medicine, hydrotherapy, acupuncture, homeopathy, therapeutic massage, and oriental medicine. So they kind of use all of the alternative therapies. They attend a 4-year graduate level naturopathic medical school, and with the standard medical curriculum, general practitioner, and then they have an extra 4 years of training in disease prevention and wellness. And then osteopathic medicine is founded on the philosophy that all body systems are interrelated and dependent on each other for health. They are board certified to diagnose. They pay attention to the joints, bones, muscles, and nerves. And then the last one, faith healing. They believe laying on of hands to heal in prayer. So some common herbal remedies are St. John's wort, and used most often as an antidepressant, and for nerve pain, as a sedative and malaria. And ginkgo typically helps with asthma, bronchitis, fatigue, tinnitus. Some research has found that it helps with cognitive decline and functional ability. Chamomile can be used for sleeplessness, anxiety, and GI upset. Ginger ale, we give a lot, quite often for nausea, so stomach aches, nausea, and diarrhea. And echinacea, thank you. The echinacea, they felt helps to prevent colds, stimulate the immune system. The important thing with herbal remedies is to know that those are medication-like, and they can counteract with normal medications. Page 339 goes into some of the things that these can interact with. So we want to make sure that patients know what they shouldn't take because these can interact. I know there were a bunch of them that interfered with aspirin. So that could cause a bleeding problem in some patients. So ginger can increase the anticoagulant effects of aspirin and anticoagulant medications. So it's important that we let patients know that are taking anticoagulant medications and aspirin. Ginkgo may increase also the anticoagulant effects of aspirin and anticoagulant medications. Also, if your patient's going to have surgery, that's an important thing to know, that they're on these supplements. And echinacea may reduce the effectiveness of immunosuppressants because it helps increase the immune system. So sometimes patients are on immunosuppressants, so it may decrease their effectiveness. And it has not been found to be effective in treating colds in children 2 to 11. St. Wort's as an antidepressant and anti-inflammatory may potentiate antidepressant medications. So if someone's on an antidepressant, it may potentiate the antidepressant whatever. So it may actually make them more agitated and confused and possible cardiac problems. So the main thing is to definitely, you know, when you ask patients what medications they're taking, to have them include the herbal remedies also, and then warn them if any of those medications that they may be taking interact. Okay. Healthy People 2020. The mission of Healthy People 2020 is to identify nationwide health improvement priorities, increase public awareness and understanding of the detriments of health, disease, and disability, and the opportunities for progress, provide measurable objectives and goals that are applicable at the national, state, and local levels, engage in multiple sectors to take actions to strengthen policies and improve practices that are driven by the best available evidence and knowledge. And also identify critical research, evaluation, and data collection needs. There are like 42 focus areas, and you're going to be doing a whole group project that Ms. Ward will discuss more on tomorrow. She's sick today, so she'll be with us tomorrow. But we will hit on 8 of those focus areas for you guys to do your group projects at. This is a good video.
Oh,